What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Murph and I need to square up my webcam. Today we're going to be coming through talking about my free-to-play alt account just at level 60 with it, and I kind of want to go through the logic of how I'm investing in characters and how I'm actually building this account right now. So this is going to be kind of a twofold video. It's going to be like one part like resource guide and like one part basically like not just how I'm spending my resources, but like the actual logic behind it. So let's get into it. First off, we're going to talk about energy. Now on this account, what I'm doing is I've mapped out 5 raid teams for myself to build on this account. I've gone through utilizing a bunch of the tier list spreadsheets that have been provided on some of the unofficial discords on what teams are better on what chapters. And in addition to that, this account, when I first started it, I decided to do some kind of off meta teams to start off that were different than what I was building on my main account, because I really wanted to get firsthand experience and feedback with these teams rather than relying on other people's inputs for them. So what I've done and what I've gone through and built so far is I started this account by focusing mainly on Mordor. So having just hit level 60 today, I was able to get all of my Mordor characters up to gear 8, just barely before hitting level 60. And then I'm also working on Road to Rivendell, as you can see. All of these Road to Rivendell characters are currently gear 7, with Strider being gear 8 and Frodo being gear 7. So let's start off, and I kind of want to group all these different resources, not necessarily by like what the resource is, but how it's used and spent, right? So the first one I want to talk about is the actual gearing process. So when it comes to gearing and we start gearing up our characters, you're going to notice is obviously it takes a lot of these kind of filler pieces around here on the left and right, but down the center and sometimes on the right side of the gear pieces, they have these shadow crystals. Now these shadow crystals are typically found within the challenge modes that come out on a scheduled basis throughout the week. They're daily challenges. You can buy them using raid currency, and you can buy them out of some of these shops, which we're going to go ahead and buy that real quick. And then in addition to that, you can farm them using regular energy. Now, the main thing with these crystals, as most of you probably know, is that there are shadow crystals, and then there are also light crystals. So if we open up Frodo here and we hop over to the next gear piece, you'll see, boom, there's some light crystals. So what that means is we have really the centerpiece of all gear in the game right now is going to be light crystals and shadow crystals, and everything else around it is a filler. So what I do when I start gearing my characters is I basically take it and I go one shadow character, one light character. Essentially, they will not overlap resources outside of potentially some of these more filler pieces, but these are easier to get and much cheaper to get. It seems like the energy farms for them they yield more resources than the crystal nodes yield crystals, and as well the shops are a bit more affordable with the challenge store tokens and everything else like that. So basically, with that logic in mind, not only am I working on one shadow character and one light character at the same time, I'm really overall building just one single shadow team and one single light team, and then picking a character off each of those teams and building them. So right now, with my shadow team being maxed out at gear 8 right now, which I know it's not the maximum gear tier in the game, but being free to play, gear 9 is just not accessible for me on this account yet. What I'm currently doing is I'm still filling out, as you can see on Rockma here, there's usually a couple of rare pieces or blue level pieces on your way from gear 8 to gear 9. So I'm working on just finishing those off my shadow characters first, while at the same time I'm prioritizing gearing up my light characters I'm focusing on, which is Road to Rivendell. As you can see, we've got Frodo, Sam, Merry, Pippin, all at gear 7. However, Frodo is currently 3 out of 6 gear pieces on the way to gear 8. Now, it's kind of up to you if you decide to focus on multiple characters at the same time or just one. Personally, I find it easier to focus on just one single character at a time, get him to the next gear tier, move on to the next character, get them to the next gear tier, and so on. You can also go ahead and just take like the important characters from each team and focus on gearing them and leave some of the others behind. That's up to you. But at the end of the day, you should be gearing mainly one shadow character and one light character at a time, and try not to add too many to that farm, because it's going to spread yourself thin if you start trying to gear up multiple shadow characters and multiple light characters. The crystal income, even though it's getting better with the raid, just is not great right now. Now, the next resource I want to talk about is going to be your gold and your experience points, which you will use to level your characters. Now, personally, when I level characters, I typically spend about 30 to 45,000 gold per day on leveling, and that's it. And the main reason for that is because that will still level my characters up, and it will still provide me with a nice little. We're gonna open up gold here. Oh, that was the guild menu. My mistake. But all right, whatever. There's no gold menu. Essentially, only spending a little bit of gold is going to help you build up a surplus in the back so that you can use that gold to level up abilities, which gets fairly expensive as the game goes on. You can upgrade star counts as you start to farm more shards for characters. That gets expensive as the game goes on. And in addition to that, you can save up a pool of gold so that if a new marquee character comes out, or maybe you're in the middle of a raid and you're really not getting the points you want and you kind of want to just take one character up a decent amount, it gives you the flexibility to be able to use your gold kind of, in a break glass in case of emergency sort of situation. So I had almost 1,000,000 gold just sitting on this account until I hit level 60, and then I had to dump it all in order to level all my characters up. But essentially, that's how I'm using my gold. I'm only spending about 30 to 45,000 a day, and the way I'm doing that is essentially, obviously, at these lower levels. Like, let's take a level 1 character, for instance. Here we go. We'll go with Arwen. With Arwen, following my 30 to 45,000 gold rule, I can take her to anywhere from level 30 to level 34. So that would be like day 1, and then the next day after that I could go ahead and take her up to about 38, and then take her up to 41, and then obviously as you start hitting level 40, those resource requirements start getting so much higher that essentially I'm really only leveling them up 1 level per day, which does get slow, to be honest, but it's really the only way you can consistently level characters over time and still be able to bank gold up in case you need it. And as you can see, as long as you're staying focused on what you're leveling up, you're not spreading it out too far. I just hit level 60 today. I've got my entire Mordor team at level 60 already, so I don't have to worry about that. And I'm now working on my Road to Rivendell team, which is, we focused on our Shadow team. Now we're focusing on our Light team. You'll kind of see there's kind of a balance between that, not just with the crystals, with the way I do everything in this game right now. You can see I've got Strider at 60, I've got Frodo at 60, I got Sam to 60 just today as well. And I'm currently leveling Merry. So I'm going to be taking Merry up just a couple levels at a time, or maybe 1 level at a time, depending on the gold requirement per level. And then eventually I'll be moving over to Pippin once I hit level 60 with Merry. And then once I'm done with Pippin, I will take my next team that I'm working on and start leveling them. So we've talked about gear, we've talked about gold. What else do we have? We have ability materials. So when we talk about ability materials, there's really 2 main ways that we're going to be getting ability materials in this game. The main ways we're going to be getting ability materials is going to be number 1 from the daily challenges. Wondrous Abilities. Wondrous Abilities is on Thursdays and Mondays and Sundays, and as you can see, the difference in ability materials between tier 6 and tier 5 is just like astronomical. Being able to get 33 rare ability materials, or epic ability materials rather, compared to 15 ability materials, it's ridiculous, especially when you start considering that once you start pushing level 6 abilities on characters, you're looking at 200 plus ability materials per ability. And honestly, even on my main account where I've spent a little bit of money on the game, ability materials is one of the biggest bottlenecks in the game right now. And it's not only expensive in abilities, but it also costs a lot of gold to level up these later abilities. I'm currently working on my, I think, 3rd team on that account, and I still haven't even maxed all the abilities on my main team yet. I'm still working on that. The second way you're going to be able to farm ability materials out is going to be through the guild campaign. Now, the guild campaign is something you kind of have to balance, whether or not you want to be farming shards or you want to be farming ability materials. As you can see, on the later tiers in Chapter 5, you have the opportunity to get 3 rare ability materials per attempt. And if you want to farm characters on Chapter 1, you cannot get rare ability materials. If you want to farm characters on Chapter 2, you have the chance of getting 1 rare ability material. So really what I do with the guild campaign and how I farm my ability materials out of the guild campaign is really based off of what am I farming at this moment in the game. So right now, with the guild campaign, I've already gone through. Gaz Ironhide was my first guild campaign farm, and it should be yours too. He's a monster in the game. Once I finished him, I pushed the guild campaign up to chapter 5 as fast as I could, so I could make sure I was banking as many ability materials as I could. So as you can see with Gaz at least, we've got all level 6 abilities -1. With Shagrat, we got all ability materials level 5. So on. With Mordor, I'm kind of pushing all of them to level 5 right now, and then I'll be pushing them all to level 6 afterwards. Now, what throws a wrench in this whole thing is that while I'm simultaneously building Road to Rivendell, I need to start pushing Pippin to 5 stars as soon as possible, because my Merry is currently 114 out of 130 shards to level 5, which means I'm close to being able to push the next tier of the Sam Adventure to get him to 5 stars. So now I have to focus on farming out Pippin, which means that my ability materials are going to be taking a massive hit in the near future. But again, this is something you need to balance. So the best way I would suggest doing this is focus on ability materials like 66% of the time. And then when it comes time to actually have to push stars on a guild campaign farm, whether it's Ugluk or Pippin or Ironhide, then take some time off, focus on that character farm. You're going to hurt yourself with ability materials in the short term, but just get that character farm over with so you can go back over and farm ability materials. And the other thing I didn't mention with the guild campaign and farming out these ability materials is that the amount of gold you're going to get per attempt is the highest amount of gold per energy spent out of any type of energy between campaign or guild campaign and out of all the chapters. So once you hit guild chapter 5, not only are you going to be banking in rare ability materials, you're also going to be banking in a lot of gold along the way as well. Now, we've talked about gold and experience and leveling. We've talked about ability materials. We've talked about gear itself. What else haven't we talked about? We haven't talked about shard farming. So the way I am farming shards and essentially spending my campaign energy right now is I am just shard farming, period. And the reason for this is because when you spend your regular energy, you really have 2 different roads to go down. You can either focus on farming character shards, or you can focus on farming gear pieces, whether it's crystals or the uniques or whatever else you want to call them, like these pieces here. Where they at? There's these uniques, and then there's these the essences. That's what they're called. Forgot what they were called. The reason I focus on character shards is because with the updates that they pushed about a month ago or so, everything at 4 stars or higher will exponentially increase in stats, and it gets to the point where if a character is free to play farmable and you're able to target farm those character shards, you're going to get a much higher yield in power and damage output and survivability with that character than you would with gear itself. Kind of the way I've heard people talk about it as a relationship is that with the star levels, you will get a higher modifier or a higher multiplier for your stats on that character, but then farming out the gear gives you higher base stats. So that's kind of how the relationship works, is the way I've heard people explain it. I don't know if that's true or not, but it makes sense to me. Now, when it comes to farming character shards, it's going to be a longer process than gearing a character. However, it's going to yield a much higher character strength output than just simply farming gear will. Now, I'm not saying you need to do one or the other, but I am saying that if you had to prioritize one over the other, I would prioritize character shards. And the other reason for that is because there's only so many characters you can purchase out of stores and through other means, but with gear, we can go through and every single day, if we're being responsible with our gold and not over leveling every day, we have enough banked up, I can go through every day and buy out every single one of these gear pieces from the main store at every single refresh. And it doesn't, like you don't lose, or you don't net lose gold over it. You will still net gain gold. In addition to that, you can purchase crystals out of the arena store, which I do every single day. And occasionally you will have character experience in here as well. Or actually, no, that's this store here. And always buy your character experience from here so you do not get run out of it. And then out of the challenge store, you can buy all of your essence using the challenge material. Like, honestly, on this account, I've gone the direction of Halbarad is not an amazing character like everybody thought he was at the beginning of the game. He is a great plug-and-play character, but with how slow his character shards are to farm, with all the new releases, as far as like the character shards or character star level update, as far as how power works with star levels, if a character can't be brought or can't be free to play farmed, unless you bring them to gear 8, they're not worth it. And even when you bring them to gear 8, it's kind of like a half measure to make them viable. I personally think that right now, at least, if you unlock Halbrad, cool. I wouldn't farm him. I'm personally using this to get all of my other main teams, which are honestly much better than just having Halbrad and Rangers are, or having Halbrad as a plug and play character. It's going to be much better for your account in the long run, in my opinion. So again, you use your guild campaign, or not guild, your campaign energy, Shadow and Light campaign, for shards or gear. And I think shards are better. So what I'm currently spending all of my energy on is I am currently farming out my 2 teams I'm focusing on, my 1 Shadow and my 1 Light. So I'm going through and I'm farming Rockma shards. I'm going through and I'm farming Grimler shards. I'm going through and I'm farming, not Strider because he's daily objectives, I'm farming my Uzen shards. I'm farming my Frodo. Not my Sam, but I am farming my Mary shards. And then after that, I have plenty of energy left over. And what I'm doing with that energy is I'm starting to focus up on my future farms so I can start working on them in the long run. So really there's character shard farming, there's gear, there's ability materials, and there's leveling. So as I've said, I have my 2 main Shadow and Light teams. You focus back and forth on them. And then with shard farming, I will go a little bit further down the road because personally with both my accounts, I've road mapped out what teams I want to build as far as 5 teams for all of my raid content right now, so that I can start working on those teams now and not be wasting resources elsewhere. And in my next video coming out tomorrow, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about like what 5 teams I'm focusing on my accounts and kind of the rationale between how I got there. And then that will kind of show you my logic for how to build your account towards the raids right now. And then hopefully that'll be Wednesday. So Thursday, we should actually be launching the raid again in my guild. So I should hopefully be able to pull you guys some raid content for Thursday and then through the rest of the weekend. But until then, guys, that's it for today. Let me know if this resource video helped you guys out, or if I'm just rambling way too much, or maybe I missed a part with some of the resources in the game that you guys would like some more information on. Definitely leave a comment down below if it helped out, or if you want more information, or if you want anything specific you want videos made on, let me know. More than happy to make kind of whatever you guys want to see. So till tomorrow, I guess I'm out of here. I need a tagline for the end of the video. Just like up and away, or some shit. I don't know.